Oh, there we go. Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Bull Rush. My name is Mr. Schmoolidolf. I am joined, as always, by Mr. Twolfman, who's on my left and should be on my right, because I can't get directions proper here. And this week we do have a lovely new guest star, Mr. Koos from Team Big. How you doing today, good sir?
Doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's great to have you in on this show. Today, we've got some awesome things to talk about. We're going to be talking about the new news that Motiga is now actually hiring again, which is always fantastic to hear, especially after there were some layoffs. And then also that there is the big double rewards weekend, followed by the possibility of a new bug fix patch in the next week. Following that, we're going to be talking a little bit with Koos on, competitive scene, and then also some lovely, gigantic ballads blues, because we always have salt for that. Always have salt for that.
That's always a thing that we talk about. But I mean...
Well, I mean, what else are we going to talk about, right?
If that's what the viewers want, then that's what the viewers have. I didn't even know that Koos was going to be on the show until like an hour ago. I was like, when did this happen?
Honestly, I don't think he knew 100%.
I didn't know either. I said, I'm free if you want to interview, if you need someone to chat with, then...
Well, because I kind of put out, I was like, yeah, so Koos is here as part of GGU now, for all those who were watching it didn't know that. He is actually part of GGU now. I'm like, he should totally be on the show with us. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. And then like a week went by and I said nothing to him about it.
Yeah. So I just sort of sat here and thought,
I did remember that.
I wonder when that's happening.
I did remember that.
There we go.
I didn't know it was going to be today.
Well, it is today. So here we go. We've got with awesome news that of course they're going to be hiring up again. If you look at the positions up on Motiga's main website, the first ones we obviously know QA testers. They obviously probably let go a lot of QA testers, and they're always looking for more. But with that, be probably the group of people that wouldn't stick around. When you think about that, QA testers are almost always on contract lease. They're not going to be around, with one specific game development studio for too long, and so for a while, these guys they're gonna be there for a while, and they're gonna move off to another game development studio. So obviously, they're gonna need some more of that. But it's the big names are the ones that they're looking for that kind of hit the hardest. The biggest one, senior level designer, that was Kate, MO Kate, previously High Res Kate. We saw that up on the Twitter, moving over to Gearbox now.
Yeah, that's the thing. She got a different job, so I can't be upset about it because she's still.
I mean, good for her, right?
And doing awesome things.
Yeah.
It's just like.
It's interesting when you think about that too, because what other games are looking for new game developer or new level designers? There are quite a few within the scene. 3D level designers being looked for. So is she really the only good one?
No, just
I think it's probably more that she was laid off, and obviously she was unhappy about that. But I think she was probably being realistic, and Gigantic was in a precarious spot, and so she probably just.
Well, and also you have to think
this is a great offer, so I'll take it.
Yeah, you also have to think like, I need the money.
Exactly,
that's the thing. You can't really take that period of time where you aren't getting a paycheck. I mean, obviously there were a lot of people at the Motiga offices that were more than happy to just kind of camp out in the office for a while until things got back, into a normal status.
Yeah.
And I mean, good on them. Because if we saw the picture that was posted up on the Twitter by Troy, that isn't a small number of people that are still around. Like, that is a large group of people that are still hanging out at the offices. So there is still a great amount of people.
As well sort of insinuates that a lot of them have been rehired.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
If they're hiring people, then surely they've rehired first. Because I know that those were temporary layoffs. They really tried to make that clear in the
original post, yeah. And so, I mean, there's stuff like that. Another game designer, I don't know who was lost on that. Obviously, we do know James Finney's still around. We do know Carter's still around. So when it comes to, game designers and developers and whatnot, they still got quite a few hanging around. Maybe they're just looking to deal with specific issues, like specific things that they may not be too good on, like AI, maybe. They're looking for...
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
It's entirely possible.
I mean, these are very specific positions that every single studio should have. Like, you need someone that can program your engine that you're running on, like Unreal Engine
Yeah.
that Gigantic is running on. Like, people need to be able to code and program the game. You know,
So-
game designers, people need to come up with new concepts, new kits, new characters, new whatever. You know, like those things need to happen. And then a senior level designer, what I said earlier, I wasn't saying that Kate was the only one that could do a good job, because
I mean-
obviously she's not. I mean, she did a fantastic job. It's more of
Well,
the
she made
feeling
Valley.
that,
Well, Siren
Yeah.
Strand. She made Siren Strand.
that's what I'm saying, though. It's like, it's more of the feeling, the fact that she came in, she impacted so much. She gave us a new map. She redesigned Mistforge or Sanctum Falls, and like gave a little touching up as well to Ghost Reef. Like, everything that she did is in the game, and the fact that she's no longer with the studio, it's just kind of just like, oh man, like that really sucks. But I can't be upset because she found something else.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, people need to have jobs. It's more of that feeling of just like, damn, like she's gone. You know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you have this expectation that the next person that comes up and takes that role in the studio, like, we have really good feelings for all three of those maps. Like, not all of them are amazing, and we don't love every single
Ghost
aspect of the maps, but they're still good maps, and you know, you want to have the same feeling in whatever maps will be in the near future.
Yeah, and realistically, like you said, these are positions that every game development studio needs and whatnot. So then perhaps, I mean, obviously we know senior level designer, that's not a position that you just kind of go and say, oh, hey, we need another one of these. No, you need a senior level designer. So what they're that's probably the only job position in there that they are looking to replace somebody who left. The other two, you know, game designer, engine programmer, even QA game testers, I'm going to agree with you. I think that's people that are just, you know what? We need more people. We don't have enough to do what we want. We do have enough to cover our bases, but we need more people so we can develop faster.
I mean, yeah, that's the exact thing, though. Like, specifically with the engine programmer and the game designer,
Yeah.
like, Motiga understands that this game fell because a lot of people left because things weren't happening.
Yep.
Like, people were bored with the game because nothing new was being released. And, like, we've discussed this before. The difference between the last release and the most recent release, which would be like Wu and Ashling and then Paco, was literally 10 months. Roughly 10 months.
Jeez.
Since any new release, of any kind, new maps, new heroes, like even slight changes in game mechanics. That was 10 months of just dead time.
And a lot of
people
those,
just being
a
like,
lot of that time,
"Well,
there
what's
wasn't
going
even
on?"
playtests going on. You know, a lot of that time
Yeah.
it was literally just Tutorial Tuesday and Gardens Arena that was going on at that time. That was it. You know, which was great, I mean, for the competitive scene, because at the height of that, we had like 16 teams on NA that were showing up for Guardians Arenas. You know, that was great for the competitive scene, but it sucked for everything else, you know? And that being the case, it's nice to see that, you know, we got all this recent things coming on, but now we have to see what they're going to do to cover their bases. What are they going to do to get this new content? And Goof is already talking about that. They've got more content coming out. We've already seen Valley. We've already seen Paco once. We've seen a lot of new content with the fortune cards, and now this next patch 5.1 or CBT 5.1, is going to be a lot of bug fixes and just what's the word, like rejiggering of things, you know, just fixing things that were kind of strange.
I know it is.
It is now, okay. You know, like the
rejiggering.
star fortune cards now requiring
Can you
experience.
spell that for me, please?
Yes, I can. That is REJIGG jig BIR or ERING, rejiggering, right there in the chat. There we go. That is now a word, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, boy. All right.
But we
I
do
think a
have
lot of
some.
the hiring thing as well was to do with the like looking forward. I think that if they look too short term again at the game, they'll get a big boom with all of these keys they've given out, but then they'll get a big fall off if they haven't got content way down the line. Like, it's easy to say that, you know, they're bringing out Packer, they brought out Siren Strand, but if there's not something that they're already working on that's almost finished that can start to be released in, say, 2 or 3 weeks, then all of a sudden, another like a month and a half, 2 months goes by, and a lot of those players just drop it because I've played these 16, 17 heroes, I've played these 3 maps.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm done. So like that's I think why they're.
Or they'll turn into Wolfie over here and be like, "I'm level 43 here. I've unlocked everything."
I'm not 43.
You'll get there.
Why am I the why am I the example here?
Because you don't do anything else except play
You're the highest
Gigantic.
level in the game.
But yeah, they might get to that point where they've unlocked enough. Maybe not even get to ridiculous levels. Just have unlocked enough with the game where it's just like, you know what? I've done everything I care to do. I've played enough. I'm still not, getting what I want out of this game. I'm done. Fine. And move on. And you're exactly right. They want to get more content out. And it's not like they don't have more content to get out. We saw that on the dev streams. They've got plenty of new prototype heroes that still need to be put out. Glyph was the one almost everybody is just clamoring about, So...
Because Mo Pickup, or... No, that's not his name. Whatever. Joe, I'm just gonna say Joe because I know his name.
Mojo.
Joe played Mojo. Mojo played Glyph for like 1 game, and everyone's just like, "What is this? What is she? What is it? What does she do?" And then there was one point where he's in the store, and then like his mouse hovered over one of the protos, and it was, I think, Zandora.
Zandora.
It was like a pink thing, and everyone's
Pink
like,
lady.
"What?"
Pink lady with the big spear.
Minx.
I mean, there's things there, it's really cool to see that.
So we've got all that content that's hanging around, but if Paco's any indication, there's still some heavy prototyping going on right now.
But there's so much truth in what Kus is saying. It's specifically with the amount of keys that were given out the past month, with this whole situation happening of a possible like shutting down of the studio. There are a lot of people playing the game now, and they all have expectations coming from other areas like MOBAs or whatever that have like frequent updates, frequent releases for new things, new experiences. I feel like what this hiring specifically for these positions, it's like they're attempting to stockpile some information and just be like, all right, so guys, what do you have? Give what you have, write it down. We're going to put it in this, and then we're going to organize it like really slowly so we have things on the line waiting.
I think
and then
that
what they currently have is just going to come up hopefully soon.
I think that what they're streaming when they streamed with some of the new content, I think that was really good for the game as well. It got a lot of people excited. It's a lot of, and it lets people know that there is stuff down the line. Because on a lot of games like Blizzard and Heroes of the Storm, they can go a month or even over a month without
saying
getting any
anything.
information about a new hero. And people get salty on Reddit and they say, "Come on, it's my God-given right as a Heroes of the Storm player that you give me information, Blizzard." But they can get away with that.
That's not even just Heroes of the Storm, too.
Exactly. I mean, I was just using that as an example. Whereas with this game, they're really at that. They're so close to where it's polished enough to where people will give it a chance, even through all of the difficulties with logging on and everything. But if they don't capitalize on this huge influx of players, then they'll see a massive drop, and then the queue times will increase, which will put off the old players as well as the new. So I think that this hiring time is perfect, and
and
they need to keep us informed. They need to keep us informed. They need to keep us on the hook, even if it's just here's a cheeky look at this new skin we're working on. Here's a cheeky look at this new hero. Here's a name of a hero we're working on. And then
I'm glad we invited you.
Be so excited.
Oh my God.
I'm so glad we invited you.
Just your voice and your accent.
Anyway, I'm happy to be here.
Anyway, I totally agree with you. They need to keep people informed, with what they're doing. Even what you said, just a quick little screenshot of something that, hey, we were working on this week, or hey, Paco finally got some new upgrade paths, or something like that, or hey, Paco's almost
retarded.
Done. Yeah, shut up. We already had that conversation. And speaking of Paco, in reference to obviously the prototypes they were showing, Paco is still very much a prototype, and we kind of went on that. He's missing a lot of animation still. He's missing a lot of audio still, and heck, if he's the model for he's almost done, I don't even know what kind of state Glyph or Zandora are in right now, because it's like
like the Uncle Sven model, but messed up. He looks like some creepy puppet. I was like, Geppetto, please.
So of course,
there's like a giant G on his back. It was
so
weird.
of course, obviously, there's some heavy prototyping to be done there, but we don't know how long that's going to take, and obviously, when they get more people in, that'll be taken care of. But we're going to talk about what we're seeing here coming up soon, which is the release of CBT 5.1 build. Are you literally drinking straight from a milk carton?
Oh yeah, milk.
True man over here, guys. No, this is great. Well, with CBT 5.1, they're going to be talking about some first minor updates since for a while. They really haven't done too many minor updates. They've done a lot of major stuff where they've gotten new things. God dang it, Dr. Guth.
What did you do?
He pissed off Nightbot. The first time they've really done any real minor things when it comes to the game, and even then, I wouldn't even say it's entirely minor. Things that they're changing here. They're changing around some of the fortune cards is what they're saying, such as the star card, which was the get to level 10 on a certain number of matches. Now, instead of requiring that, will require players to earn 30,000 experience for the basic card over several matches. Which, honestly, is a lot better. Here's the interesting part about this, and people who've been streaming Kusu Wolfie's been in the game box a lot as well. These are things we've been telling directly to Nanaman. Hey, look, fortune cards that require us to get to level 10 kind of suck because that's not an easy thing.
I think I had an Imani card to get to level 10 3 times for over 2 weeks, and I played. It's not like I did player. I played it like 5-7 times on Sanctum Falls, and it was just
never gonna happen.
I think I got like 11 kills and 10 assists in one of them. It didn't matter.
And here's the worst part about that. The worst part about that really is just that, you'll either get those games like that where it's like, I could be doing incredibly well and still not get level 10, or you'll get games where it's like, wait, hold on, guys, hold on, don't push the wound yet, I need to get level 10. And do the douchebag stuff. Oh, dude, we hate doing it, but we've done it for Wolfie, we've done it for me, we've done it so many times.
And it's bollocked me as well. He was like, you know better than that, Koos. I raised you better than that.
Yeah, no, there is no better than that. It's the same thing with the Revenge and Justice cards feeling kind of douchey, too. Because it's like, yeah, I need to die to get this badge, or I need to let my friend die to get this badge. That, stuff like that, just that supports really bad and douchey play, are things that we've been telling directly to Nanaman. I love that they're doing this kind of update, simply because that means that they are actually listening to, feedback that. And I mean, it is Nanaman. Nanaman is probably, in my opinion, one of the most active devs when it comes to the community, outside of Evan and Troy. And even then, Evan and Troy are active on the back end of the community. Nanaman is just, he feels like he's just a dev who's a part of the community because he hangs out in all the streams. He talks to all the streamers. He hangs out in the chats, in the game box and whatnot. And he's always asking for stuff like that. So, he is exactly like that. He is exactly the person that's going to be asking for all those answers. Do they have patch notes? They do not yet have patch notes, Guth. But, it's stuff like that that's really great to see. Yeah. Another big one, Beckett getting a new splash damage upgrade for Rocket Launcher. And the gods came down and said, yes, Shmoog is right about something.
And said Shmoo is retarded and is going to whine about everything. And therefore we're going to give splash damage to a hero that is so easy to play. So easy.
I'm sorry. It is a rocket launcher that doesn't explode on impact with anything other than a hero. That doesn't make any sense. That is so stupid, okay? I'm sorry.
I feel like what they should do with the rocket launcher is make the projectile slower, make it hit harder, so that there's some counterplay to it. But it also means that she's actually wanting to get up close and personal. Because her machine guns are kind of her, I'm going to poke them down from afar, and then she can jetpack in and rocket launch the living daylights out of her.
And that's not how I've played her.
On the floor.
That's not how I played her, though.
But I don't feel like the rockets... At least to me, in my limited experience with Beckett, she's probably my least favorite character. But
she is mine right now.
It's not so. It doesn't feel impactful as a rocket launcher. It feels like just a slow. Like it does damage. I love the damage, but
the damage is great.
Like a rocket launcher.
if it's
it feels
if
like
it's going to
a
do
shotgun
splash
almost.
damage, if it's going to do splash damage on impact, it needs to be nerfed in some other aspect.
See,
'Cause,
and here's the
like,
thing. I wouldn't mind
even mind
if they got rid of the splash damage. I wouldn't have minded that so much if they had just increased the projectile speed. Make it easier to land outside of, getting rid of the splash damage. Because I understand, you don't want the splash damage on Beckett because then that gives her a really strong AoE presence that she kind of already has with her focus and the grenade. But you get rid of that and then go ahead and just allow people to not be able to aim at all and barely do the damage with the rocket launcher. Like, the one time I played Beckett with the changes, I barely even used the rocket launcher. I barely even used it. I just like, what? Screw it. I'm just going to use the machine guns.
If the rocket launcher explodes, it needs to have a shorter fire rate. That's my
shorter
only
range
input right here. No,
No,
not
fire
a shorter
rate.
range,
Slower.
not a shorter projectile speed. It fires slower. The interval between shots, it needs to be slower. That's
Okay.
the only thing.
Okay.
'Cause you don't. If you have an actual real life rocket launcher, you don't just be like, boom, boom, boom. It's
I mean, if Command & Conquer
Boom.
Renegades was to be believed, you could, but
boom. It's got to be more realistic.
yeah, you've got. I agree with you. I think there should be a little bit more reload time between shots.
I don't want massive explosions in 3 rapid fire bursts that.
And really, it doesn't
in,
even
like,
need to be that
0.7
much.
seconds.
It doesn't even need to be that much of a difference. It's just like maybe 2.25 or 0.5 seconds longer. Just enough to make it feel like there's some distance between those. And then I think at that point, Beckett will fall into a nice place of balance where it's like you use the rocket launchers for long-range poking, which is what you should be doing with them anyway. And then if you want to deal sustained damage in one area, you use the machine pistols at close range. That's what it should be. And honestly, that's kind of how I used her, but the problem was there was almost no incentive to really use the machine pistols before, because you would get roughly the same amount of damage overall out of using the rocket launcher with the splash damage, and it was just generally more useful. So
and you were safer.
And you were safer, exactly. So
there was one specific build that is still a thing with the machine pistols. It's like Backcat Beckett, and you do more damage. Like if you're pretty much point blank with the pistols.
Oh yeah. Yep. Now,
but that was like the only real thing.
Going back to obviously the start, I'm looking forward to see what they do with the splash damage upgrades and see how they change that around. I'm hoping it's something that I won't be able, won't have to whine about too much, but this is the name of the game. I'm going to whine, obviously. That's my job, obviously. The next thing's obviously, Charnock detonate upgrades being rearranged, Margrave becoming a little bit less stunning. And then Vidasi getting a little bit balanced, which we'll talk a little bit. Oh my god, we'll talk a bit more about Vidasi later. But
I'm glad
other
about
things,
the Charnock detonate. The Charnock detonate makes me happy.
Yeah, just to rearrange them and whatnot.
Firstly, it's bugged right now.
Yes.
So if you take Dive Bomb, you get the second tier talent.
Pretty much for
fireball
one shot. Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean,
technically speaking, is what you had before.
I feel like that's not a problem, though. I just feel like
not.
if it's going to say that, it needs to say that it does that. And if it needs to do that, the other detonate needs to be a lot better than it is. Like,
Yeah.
they either need to decide that's too much for one detonate, we take it away. Or we need to say that's enough, but the other detonate needs to do something much more significant.
And the weird thing is technically speaking, that upgrade was on the other path for detonate for a while. It used to be where you get the full charge and can use spells mid-air using the other path on Charnock. I think you could still get the one where you can use spells mid-air. No, that's gone. It was turned into the during or after detonate, fireball charges up instantly. It used to be you could use all of your spells mid-air. You could technically still use focus mid-air regardless of having that upgrade, but used to be where you could use all of your spells mid-air, all of your left mouse buttons upgraded instantly. Oh man, Koos, what are you doing, dude?
Rip the dream.
Rip
I said
the dream.
Mashamp's my boy. Rip the dream.
Rip the dream, man. But that upgrade used to be on the other path, where you wouldn't get the QQ upgrade, you wouldn't do the dive down, but you still be able to get full charge left mouse buttons, and you would be able to use all of your spells midair. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do to change that around. I think what they're going to do is they're going to make that after or during detonate, life mouse button charges up instantly, the first upgrade, and then get the dive bomb second.
Yeah, I think that's. I think that's probably fair that you have to put 2 points to get the instant fireball and the dive bomb.
Well, I think it's fair that, because realistically, you have two types of people when it comes to playing Charnock. You have the type of people who want the detonate, the QQ dive bomb, just so that they can get the level 3 charge on left mouse button instantly. And then you get the people that want the detonate early for the mobility that dive bomb gives you.
Yeah,
most
like
people, most people love the mobility and take the the instant charge dive bombs, or the instant charge left mouse buttons just as kind of like oh, that's nice, I could use that now as an added bonus, exactly. So honestly, I think it's perfectly fine to ask people, you know what, if you want that mobility, which, let's be honest, that mobility is not anything small. That is a significant amount of mobility that you're getting out of that. It's a huge buff to his mobility.
You can chase with it, because when
you
you
chase
land,
with it, but you could also run away significantly hard from it.
Yeah.
And
it's really strong.
And the crazy thing is, there are so many positions with that where you can basically go straight horizontal with it for a good distance. You know, and
use the way that
the map and the landing. Yep. Exactly. Yep. So there's a lot that you can work with that. I'm fine with them saying, you know what, we're going to make it so that the QQ is something the dive bomb is something you actually have to dedicate points for. And, this is maybe just me playing Charnock, but I really don't care too much about the other upgrades between the left mouse button and the Q upgrades too much. This is where I'm fine with waiting one more upgrade, on that. And it also gives you that same kind of a nice plateau point. Almost every hero has that at level 5. They're at that kind of plateau, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm, generally where I get effective and can do almost everything I need to do as a hero at level 5. And with Charnock, with that change, it would be having 2 left mouse button upgrades, 2 Q upgrades, if you did it that way. If you wanted, you could do 1 left mouse button upgrade and 2 Q upgrades and then one into something else, but I don't know why you'd want to. But honestly, I think with that change, it puts him into that nice spot where he has that as his plateau point. He has the QQ upgrades, he has the left mouse button upgrades, he's now capable of outputting the damage that he's meant to output. Here's where he can start contributing the maximum amount to his team.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I'm fine with that.
It's really just going to depend on what actually happens, though.
Exactly.
There might be a change. It's something completely different that's completely broken.
They may just remove it entirely.
I really think they're going to modify, or I hope they modify the other one. The
second path?
Yeah, I hope that they modify that.
And give it just something more.
Make it more interesting. I like when there's 2 options that are both relatively viable. Obviously, everyone will have their preference. Yeah, like with Voden, or even with Wu. A lot of people love the Cyclone kick, and then you have some of the, people who prefer still the combo Wu.
Yeah, and you could technically the same with Vidasi, even, with the right mouse buttons, except that Smite Fireballs are just broken.
Come on, let's...
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, though, with Vidasi players on the right mouse button, is you get one of 2 different types of people. You get the people who can aim the fireballs, and the people who can't aim the fireballs. That's really the only difference there. People who can aim the fireballs use the fireballs because they are broken. People who can't use the beam because it's the only thing that you can use. Yeah, shut up, Wolfie. We'll get into that conversation in a little bit. Right now, we are getting to this point where we get to talk to Kus about the reason why he's here. Why are you here? No, the reason why we brought him. What are you doing in here? No, the main reason why we decided to bring Kus in. Wow, damn, dude, calm down. No, the main reason why we brought Kus in here today is because with the bringing back of Guardians Arena with Guardians Arena Rampage, we saw the growth of Team Big, and we're seeing the growth of the competitive scene actually happen again. Because like we said before, Beta 2.0, pretty much we had 16 teams, that came for Guardians Arena, and then all of them left. Pretty much. It was like Renegades was around after, and that was it. Synergy fell apart, 84 fell apart even before the ending of CBT, even before the opening of Beta 2.0. Yeah. And so, with all those teams leaving, the competitive scene kind of just died. It was gone, pretty much. It was...
It really did. I mean...
just completely dead. And even now, we're still seeing the competitive scene is in a pretty rough place, even with Gardens Arena Rampage coming back out, where realistically, there's only 2 or 3 teams. You know, there's Big, there's Renegades, and there's Art. Team What is sort of
Gaming
around.
is around as
Yeah,
well.
Warpath is around, but...
Cero is working hard, and Quick's I think Quick's got like internet computer issues or something.
Yeah.
But Error 4 is playing the crap out of the game as well.
Yep.
I don't know their other members. I haven't been told.
Well, but here's the thing: is like
but...
if we're using Guardians Arena Rampage as a gauge for which teams are around, they're not around.
Yeah, currently, yeah. They're still in.
Right now, there's like.
Stage, I guess.
There's number 1 HKs, which I think was like a Ringers team of just the people who run Guardians Arena.
Saltfast sort of got, old vets who still want to play some competitive and want to play with other people who know how to play competitively.
That's what that team was. It wasn't Ringers. It was Sulfus having the idea and then like talking to Rezo
and Kada and whatnot.
Yeah, that was them.
And we also have Art. They've been around for a while now, and they've kind of tried their best to be. Oh my, that was weird.
That was weird.
That was very weird.
Whatever.
You've got another team who's Art
that's been around.
That's been around. But the problem obviously with them is that they've just been trying to get everybody to the Saturday events, which is hard, and that's another issue with Gigantic Arena or Guardians Arena. We've got Big, who's been there for every event. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have been around for every single
Big.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, since they redid everything, the new Guardian Arenas,
Exactly. Outlandish, we were there for the last one, sort of, but not really. Right now, we're obviously waiting for Rick and Morty to get his graphics card sorted out, and then we'll be back. And then Renegades. So there's really, 3 teams who are legitimately there that are actual competitive teams every time.
There's another team too called Awkward Wilson. They couldn't make it last week because 2 of their members were sick, but
okay.
They're a new team who have formed.
Nice.
They're not bad. They're not bad at all. I haven't ever seen them practicing all that much, and I don't see them on Gamebox. I don't know if they use the Gamebox that much. I think they do sometimes, but I know that they're a team who I solo queued into them after GA one time. And I was playing Woo, and I was trying out the Cyclone Kick build for the first time. They absolutely wrecked me, and I thought, oh, hey, hang on. I think those guys at Awkward Wilson, they're a pretty good team. They thought they were against my team at the time, and then I explained, no. Solo queuing on Woo and feeling terrible about it. And hating life. But
with all of that being, the case, and obviously Big being the newest team, I mean, almost all of you guys are just new players, started playing, a few months ago. How do you feel, the community just responded? I mean, how does it feel being the newest team?
It feels pretty good. I mean, it feels fantastic, actually. Everyone's really welcomed us with open arms. The RNG boys are giving us non-stop help. It's been a new experience for me. I've never been in a proper competitive team before, but it's always been something I've thought about and wanted to do. So I just decided, I want to make this happen. I'm in the game at the right time. It seems, it's still early beta. I feel like with a few other games, I missed that train, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it really felt, this is the time. I've been playing with these guys pretty much non-stop for the last week and a half. Let's do it. Why not? If it fails, it fails. But I tried. And everybody in Gamebox and on Renegades and even Warpath, Error 4 and stuff, and Avalon, everyone wanted us to succeed. Like they want a team.
Yeah,
they want another competitive team
to
go against.
Yeah.
Well, ever since really the death of Synergy, almost everybody in the competitive scene has just been like, well, I guess Renegades are the crowned king now. This is what's going to happen, And with, technically Warpath is still around, like I said, from Cero, Era 4, Quick is still around. I don't think Soup is a part of that anymore. He was there for the tournament, Superior, but
I don't know what Soup's been doing.
I think he's been moved over to Paladins for a while there.
I think so too, but I haven't seen him tweet anything like.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of hate to just say this out loud, but realistically, the 2 biggest and best members of Warpath were Quick and Soup, and the only reason I say that is because they were parts, they were the original members of people like TTK, or not TTK, what was it, One Tap.
Yeah.
Teams One Tap, Soup was
One
on
Tap,
Clash
tap,
Point
tap.
for a while. Quick was on the original Warpath for a while, as well as on wasn't he on Synergy at one point as well, or was that Germs?
I
It
don't
was
know.
one of those guys. But it's these people who have been around since even before me and Wolfie. People who've been in the game and in the competitive scene. And I'm not gonna lie, like Soup was probably the best player of the game, that I've ever seen for a
Yeah.
long time. Soup was just absolutely
Yeah,
insane.
absolutely.
So it's hard for me to really say, where Warpath is going to get. And with Warpath being where they are right now, not really showing up to events, everyone all pretty much felt the same. Renegades is now the new crowned king of competitive in Gigantic. And so
Yeah.
with that being the case, almost everybody else and that also with no custom matches being a thing anymore. We can't do that. We can't actually scrim the way we'd like to anymore. Almost everybody's like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going to do competitive right now. It's not worth it. So anybody, absolutely anybody that wants to create a team is just opened up. Just come in here, please. We're all going to have a party right now. This is what's going to happen.
I mean, that's the good thing about this game. Like, you have this. I feel like a lot of people have this idea of like, oh, the competitive scene, like, all these teams must like hate the shit out of each other, and like that's not true at all. Like,
Not
we're
at all.
all
Not at
we're
all.
all friends. We've all played this game, or most of us have played this game for a long, long time. And like anyone that comes in, whether you're a new player, a veteran player, or you're like you just got your beta key like 5 hours ago, and if you want to get involved, like get involved. We're all here to talk to you. That's why we have that's why we have this show. That's why we have
Yep.
anything that GTU does.
And I
That's
mean,
why
we can't
have
stress the use
tons
of
and
the.
tons of people.
We can't even stress the use of the game box enough. I mean, that is
Yeah.
when you really think
It's
about
really
it.
integral.
Almost everybody that has a competitive team hangs out in the game box.
Everybody who's anybody uses the game box.
Yeah,
Let's be
exactly.
real.
Let's be real here. Anybody who's anybody uses the game box. But I mean, realistically, isn't that where you met the members of Big? Was you were just
I mean,
playing
yeah,
with them?
I hopped onto like Gamebox was the first thing I hopped onto. I said, right, this game has no communication. I need communication. I'm a social butterfly. I need to spread my wings. And this is the this is the way I'm gonna do it. And yeah, I found a group of guys who I liked playing with. We played the whole week because we all pretty much got into the game at the same time. We're like, let's learn this together. And then we're like, we work really well together. Let's,
Yeah.
are you guys wanting to do competitive? And they were like,
And that's
why not?
all
I'd
it
like to
takes.
try it. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
That's all it takes is
And I-
chemistry. You find a competitive team.
Yeah, and that's the
That's
thing
what
is like
I'm
it's
saying.
not even it's the same thing with Big Team Outlandish was the same way where me and Wolfie we knew each other from Ampersand, but the other players Rick and Morty, Dr. Guthrie, Bone, Dark Dante as our sub and whatnot. These people I've played with consistently in the game box, and when I'm streaming. And I liked playing with them. I really enjoyed playing with them. I wanted to create a competitive team. So I'm like, you know what, guys, get in here. We're gonna play a competitive team. And it's gonna be real and it's gonna be awesome. But that's where it happens is within the community. And with that being the case, because the community creates teams just for being there, people who are within the community and have helped create teams are more than willing to help everybody else. Like Renegades with Big and with everybody. Like, we'll have people from Art coming in and be like, hey, that was a great game, one quick note. Or, people from, like Avalon from Team What will just kind of hang around and be like, yeah, you guys should try this. Or, oh, yeah, try this, stuff like that. So, it's really
I've
just...
done that so often where I just sit in like people's Gamebox channels and I know that they're like I know
Scribbing.
that they're like 5Qing or like scribbing.
Yeah.
I just listen.
Yeah.
And then afterwards,
Okay,
I'm just like, all right, so.
That's a little
know,
bit of earling
I-
there for you.
But I didn't like. But it's more of something along the lines of, I wasn't actually in the game, so I can't say what exactly went right or wrong unless they say that something went right or wrong. I can just be like, hey, guys, I noticed that, there were periods of time where there was nothing being said. Like, consider relaying all your information, like, consistently so that everyone knows what's going on all the time.
Yeah.
It's so much easier just to do that. And it's like, think, and then you go back and think, like, since you weren't in the game, like I said, like, tell them, go back if anyone recorded the game, like go back and be like, find a spot that went wrong, and then think about what you could have done otherwise.
Yep.
Analyze it. Think about what else you could have done.
Yep.
Where did the mistake happen and
where
why?
did it happen and why? How can you fix it? And with all of that being the case and everyone just kind of sharing that information, it's great to see the competitive scene turning into what it is, which is just another community or a sub-community of the main community. It's just people who are all just looking for higher level games. It's like the great Bill Murray actually says, it's always great to play with people who are better than you because it just elevates your game. He said that about golf, but we're saying that about Gigantic. It's always great playing with and against people who are better than you, and that's exactly what's going on, and everyone's elevating their game in that sense. And honestly, if we can ever get custom matches put in, I think we're going to see the second coming of the Guardians Arena competitive scene. We're going to see those 16 teams pop in. We're going to see, people who people we've never even seen before, who don't use the game box, who don't use Discords or anything. They just know each other and are playing together, saying, you know what? Let's make a team. We might see the team, who is it, like I Carry Bads and whatnot, the guys that play with him, popping in and having a competitive team. There's
Inamake, Ninja Turtles team.
Yeah, TMNT, Inamake's team, people he plays with might pop in. We might see that big second coming of people who just don't hang out in the game box, but still, play. So
I think those people who don't hang out in the game box also, there are a lot who don't hang out on the forums, or the Discord. So they don't even they don't even know GA is happening anymore because they think there's no custom games. How would it even happen? And I think I hope that's one of the things that Gigantic Motiga are really working on is custom games.
Well, and
the competitive scene inspires people to play too.
And that's
see how fantastic it can look and how it's got such great artwork. I think it would be just so beautiful to watch as a spectator game.
It is. It's quite beautiful to watch.
They need that spectate option. They need these things need to be coded, and those are the things that are more complicated and difficult to integrate. So I understand that that's harder to in the short term to get just churned out just like that. But that sort of thing is what will really attract new players more than anything, I think. Really.
Yeah. And Perry's got it right on the nail on the head. He watches more games than he plays. And that's really how it is for a lot of, some players, Perry being specific, he watches way more games than he plays. But when we, went to places like PAX East and PAX South even,
I was just about to bring that up.
We sit there, we were coaching for most of them. I know, Wolfie, you were down on the show floor almost the entire time coaching players. And
but when there was that event going on
the
upstairs,
tournament,
when that tournament happened, and then not that tournament, but there were scrim games going on between
all day
competitive teams at that time, and that was upstairs after the show floor was done, and I got a chance to sit behind the screen and control some cameras for people to watch.
Yeah,
and they had that whole display in the back. Those projectors, that was the coolest thing ever. Just being able to change cameras,
and that honestly, that is honestly
so
a really
awesome.
cool way of doing it too. Because for those people who are not at PAX East or even at PAX Prime when they had the setup, the way it worked was they had a really cool technology. I don't know who the guys that did that were,
I don't remember.
but basically what it did is they ran capture to all 5 of the players on both teams, syncing into one location that would broadcast up onto a main screen. And on that main screen, you had the choice of putting in, I think it was one of 6 different screens. There was either every one individual.
There were 2 control consoles that kind of looked like grid pads for a safe combination or something. It was just a number of buttons, and then every button changed the camera, and you had 2.
Or a MIDI mixer, actually, is probably what you want to use.
Yeah. And it was 1 button first player, 2 second player, third player, and then the 6th button was a split screen of 4
players
on the same team. Just going off. It was so
the
awesome.
way that we did shoutcasting for those events, where we'd have, generally speaking, 2 people would control the cameras, back behind the seat, and then we'd have the 2 people shoutcasting off of what they saw, which, that has kind of a weird space between the two of us, between those 2 groups, where it's obviously, if you're working the console, you're trying to find, okay, where's the cool play happening? Where's the thing that I want to showcase happening? But then you also kind of want to listen in. What's the shoutcaster talking about? I need to show what the shoutcaster is talking about, on the screen as well. And it created, honestly, a really, really cool, setup between the two, because you kind of have that, unspoken synergy that has to happen between the two groups. And it created this awesome shoutcasting setup. And honestly, I wouldn't mind having, in-game the in-game setup for it being just that. I don't care if all that we get for spectating is just watching cameras, because that worked that well. And even if all that is just a placeholder, even if all that is like, hey, we're going to put this in here now, and you can use that to spectate games with, but down the line we're going to actually make something else or something similar but better, that would be really cool.
Even that just by itself, immediately I'd try my best just to get as many games as possible and, practice shoutcasting.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean...
Because that would be so cool,
It's the coolest.
See, whenever I think about getting a spectator thing, I feel like a really simple way you could do it, actually, I don't know how simple this would be, is you add a secret third team to the game, and then you have the person who's spectating, there's just, one character that special team can pick, and it's... I don't know, in my head it's a Lakitu, the guy on the cloud from Mario.
Oh, yeah.
But you play as this guy, but you have no hitbox.
You're a ghost,
nothing, but you can basically just fly around and sort of...
Kind of the same way that Smite does
the
it.
camera that way. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, Smite does that.
I feel like something like that could be just a quick way of doing it. Obviously, I have no idea how hard or easy that would be.
Well, I mean, it would take some time, to get used to doing that. But I think that's
something.
It's definitely something, and it would be really cool. No lie.
I think that's actually what Dawngate did.
I mean, Dawngate in League of Legends is very easy. It's a League of Legends style game. It's a Dota style game. Obviously, it's very easy to do a spectator mode for that, because it's really just you're another player that can see both sides of the of the map. You can see everything.
You don't have a character. You're just there.
Yeah, and so if we can get that for this game, oh my god, that would be fantastic, just to get that sort of thing, and then put that in with the ability to do custom games, and put in what is the current draft pick thing that the Renegades guys have. Put that in there as well, and I'd be perfectly fine. One ban per team, blind pick allowed for now, or multi-pick allowed for now.
I think that's what RNG told us is the current sort of. I don't like that there's mirror matchups, though. I will say that.
Really?
Coming from Dota, where you counter pick, so if you can't ban all the things you want to ban, but you see a certain strat coming out, you can pick what they're going to pick as kind of a way of banning without banning.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. That extra strategic element, I think, is really strong. However, I also realize there's 16 heroes in the game right now. So if you have one ban
17
each,
with Paco, and it's
each team only gets 5 picks. You end up leaving I don't do maths.
You just be leaving 4.
I don't know.
4
left.
Because you have 10 overall plus 2 bans, be 12 heroes that you would have soaked up by the game. Out of 16 that are available to play right now, you'd have 4 left. I mean, that's not enough, and especially considering that there are some heroes that are just flat out broken. The first few picks would just be
roles.
the first couple of picks for both teams would just be picking people like Vidasi and HK and Charnock would become up on both teams like that. So it would just turn into that sort of thing. So it's understandable that they have the mirror matches for now. And I mean, they may come out with a lot more heroes as to where we don't have to worry about that so much as time moves on. But for right now, it's just gonna be mirror matchups for it right now. That's how it's gonna be.
I wouldn't mind mirror matchups if we could still play Paco.
Yeah, I get you. I feel that.
Honestly, the tank role is so important in this game.
And there's really only one good tank.
I don't feel like people realize how important it is to have a good frontliner.
Honestly, I think we need a third after Paco, because I don't think that having 2 tanks is enough, really.
You can combine Trip and Ashling or not Trip. Wow, you can combine Gnosis and Ashling and be like, that's our quote unquote tank, but.
It's
you
not.
Don't want to take 2 heroes for
Well, and again,
for
neither
a
of
role
those
that
really.
only requires one.
Yeah, and neither of
like,
those heroes
they
really
have
fill out
innate
that role.
tankiness,
And it's
they
not
don't
even.
have
But the thing
what
really
the
is
whole
it's not
kit requires.
100% innate tankiness that makes a hero a tank. Like Margrave, yes, has innate tankiness up the asshole. It's the control,
It's
yeah.
the control and the
It's
mobility in a fight.
exactly, and Paco has that because he has the CC control, but he also has that innate tankiness coming from his abilities. You know, the regen. And we said that a little bit, but you know, you're 100% right. He's really the only other tank that we've seen. You know,
Yep.
Nasus isn't really a tank. He's a bruiser. He's a brawler. He's a fighter. He has some cool utility for his team, but beyond the amount of damage he puts out, he's not useful as a tank. You know, and that's one of the main reasons why we, you know, within the competitive community kind of all agree he doesn't fit too well within a competitive scope because, you know, A, he doesn't really add that much for your team other than damage, and B, he's really easy to just focus out and dump if you're, you know, a
'cause
coordinated team.
He's so enormous, and then like any engage that he can possibly do is so easily countered. Because
It also
it's
requires
so,
all his cooldowns at once.
Yeah.
He has to
Yeah.
drop, you know, he has to drop his spears, he has to drop his bull rush, he has to drop his gore, and then what's he got? He's sitting on left mouse button, which admittedly is strong, but against an organized team who has a stun from Margrave, you're looking at a dead cow.
Yeah.
Looking at steak dinner.
And I mean,
It just-
Sloppy, you know, bring up another thing is asking, you know, is HK really a tank? And he kind of falls into that same situation as Nasus, but he's a ranged character. He's frontline ranged DPS is really what HK kind of is. And he's not even 100% frontline. He's like mid-range is all he is.
See,
so
I
he
think
doesn't-
HK could tank if they took out all of his second tier talents being requiring him to fortify. If they took
Okay.
out that fortify requirement and made one side of his left mouse button go where he can just do it constantly whilst not fortifying.
Let me
and then
paint you a
use
picture
fortify to
here.
protect your team. That would be good.
The fortify requirements on HK upgrades came shortly after a really disgusting patch for HK.
yeah.
He,
Oh,
at
I
level
remember that.
2, was able to put an upgrade that both increased his rate of fire, and then at level 3, he could apply a stacking slow using his left mouse button fire. And the
Jeez.
rapid fire talent turned his what was around 800 to 900 damage per clip to a 1600 damage per clip at level 2. So their way of adding those fortifies in was also because no one would take the fortify ever. Like, fortify was literally the last thing on the thing and no one would ever use it. That was the reason, because they were like, we built this thing in here, we built that in there, we want people to use it. I like the way it is right now, and I agree with you. If they got rid of those, then he could be a little bit more tanky, or at the very least, change the right side path for HK into a more for left mouse buttons, you know, into a more tanky thing. Make it so that while he's firing his left mouse button, he gains front armor and also
had
you know,
an
stuff like
idea.
that. Okay.
I just had an idea, and I'm in the middle ground right here. I think it would be really cool if he had an upgrade for fortify that still allowed him to have like really slow movement. So,
Yeah.
like, he could kind of just hover around, kind of
Yeah.
like
Or what if
kind
it
of
locked him in
like-
place so you could go side to side or something
Well, I
like
mean,
that?
Well, I mean, that's what it does. It locks it in place currently. It's kind of like Sergeant Hammer in Here's the Storm. Like, there's that upgrade
Yeah.
much later in the
Yeah.
game where
Where
she
you can move
hover
around slowly?
like really,
Yeah.
really slowly, but you can still
So,
move. I think that would be
Basically, the same speed he's able to move with dodging, almost, just without having to dodge.
cool. Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
over time,
Why not?
obviously. You know, like, allow him to move around a little bit.
I mean,
I'd be fine
I
with
think-
that as
I
an
think-
upgrade.
I think it would open more different upgrades for being fortified.
Yeah.
Because right now, like
Right now, it's really just...
one of the most. Yeah, it's one of the strongest upgrades in the game right now is the
Fortify
right mouse
quicker,
button
right?
into the cannon.
Oh, right mouse button into the cannon, yeah.
The right mouse button into the cannon, into the daze. Everyone goes the 2-second daze because you don't have to fortify, even though the 1-second daze in a splash area damage that dazes everyone in that radius, but you have to be fortified. It's like, why? Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want that to be a thing.
And
So
I
if
think-
I'm forced to be fortified for specific upgrades and specific like bonuses, I feel like there needs to be a reward for it. Like like, you know, you're sitting there fortified, you're forced to stay still.
Well,
But
and
you're not
never
getting
mind that the
anything out of it
1 second
unless you're
daze
in a
isn't
good
really that
position.
much anyway. Like, that's effectively an interrupt on multiple people. It's effectively what it is. You know,
Yeah,
it's
but-
there, but like, not that much.
Yeah, I
It's
think
still
I think the 400 health talent line would be best suited to that, because then, you know, I'm tanking up. You know, I'm sort of taking my position, but I'm filling that tank role. I'm
Yeah.
going to be in front of everything.
Yeah,
shooting.
definitely. You know,
And then
Yeah.
that would also mean that then the
They'd-
routing and doing more damage, you're saying, I'm dedicating myself to damage, I'm
yeah,
dedicating
and
myself
they could
to
even
staying out of the fight, well, away from the center of the fight.
Yeah, and they could even go ahead and
everyone down.
rebalance some of the other, you know, with Fortify upgrades, you know, have one set of paths, like obviously the left mouse button, you know, increased attack speed and then full damage at regardless of range, would be the more damage-oriented, not-so-tanky ones, because then you could take the quicker Fortify with 20% damage when fortified, upgrade
Yeah.
path with that, and still be able to utilize that properly, but then have the other path more tanky-oriented. You could do that, definitely. I don't
Yeah.
know if
And-
they
and,
ever
like,
will,
what-
but, you know...
what they'd have to do then is, like, across the spectrum there'd need to be a few, like, damage nerfs, because the
Yeah.
fact that if you were able to fortify, move, and have all those bonuses and still do the same amount of damage, like, that's just
Just be
Yeah.
broken.
HK is already borderline broken. Anyway.
Yeah,
So,
he is an
you know.
incredibly strong hero.
I think that his control kit really does lend himself to where I see there could be potential for him to be a tank. But the
Oh, yeah.
400 health shield on Fortify, if
Well-
you're fortifying to give yourself a 400 health shield, you're kind of like, it
Really,
defeats the purpose. You're
the-
not saving anyone with that.
Yeah, really the big thing, though, with HK being able to be a tank is he has the highest base armor value in the game of any hero.
Yeah.
You know,
No, it's even with
it's even with Margrave, okay.
Wait,
Because
Ashling has more armor than Margrave does.
not innately.
not innate armor,
I
yeah.
think so.
Base
That's,
armor at the
I saw
beginning
it
of
on
the
a
game.
video.
Ashling should only have 15, and then she has 25 at level 3 with On Guard, and then she's even.
Yeah. It's specifically, it's just like at the start of the game, no upgrades. It should be
Because I saw a
HK and
video
Margrave the same.
so Fetch throughout where he was showing the different armor values, and Ashling had more. I don't know what level they were though, so perhaps
Yeah,
after.
it may be
upgrades,
at
I'm not
level
sure.
10 or something, but at the beginning of the game, HK and Margrave have the highest innate armor values in the game. So he is innately tanky to some extent. He doesn't have the health to back it up. You know, he doesn't have the same health or control capabilities that Margrave does. He does, but not the
As much health
same.
as Margrave, but
Yeah.
he's definitely got more health.
So
than
if they, and he definitely doesn't have any of the upgrades to do it, and like we said, if they buff the upgrade paths or change the upgrades of paths to allow him to do that, he could fill that role, which kind of goes into, honestly, and without soaking up any more of our time because we're already at our hour here, it honestly kind of points out one of the biggest problems I think a lot of newer players have with the game, and not even so much newer players, but a lot of the older players as well, is that, you know, Kus, you pointed out a little bit earlier with Charnock. There are some heroes where both of the paths for multiple abilities are, generally speaking, interesting. You know, with Wu, with Vodin, both the paths are interesting, both of them are fun. But with most heroes, there is the generally perceived only build for this hero.
Yeah.
There is the only good build, and it's not even just because, oh, obviously this build is broken, take that one. No, it's because none of the other builds are interesting. Like, a good example
Yeah.
being HK. The other build isn't, like, the other half of the builds, like, why wouldn't you get faster auto attack speed? Why wouldn't you be doing more damage with your auto attacks? Why wouldn't you want the days over the railguns? Like, in some cases it's a little bit of feel, but in most cases it's like, this one's just better and more interesting as a player.
Sometimes
So-
it's not even better or more interesting, but sometimes it's just convenience
Yeah.
too. So like for me with Taito, I know that the dodge path on his left mouse button could be good, but just with the way that stamina and dodging works, it just feels like I'm so punished. Like if I want to use that damage offensively, I'm having to force myself to dodge before I start
And
my
lose
combo.
stamina. Yeah.
And lose stamina, which I could potentially have to need should the
Yeah.
person I'm attacking get back up. So
Exactly.
it's kind of like stuff like that where it's just inconvenient, like
So-
the days are so much easier to use. than
That
the
that
other
I think is
features.
probably the biggest criticism that can come out right now when it comes to game balance. Isn't so much, oh, this one person is broken, it's really just because the game in and of itself only really lends each hero one main build path. And none of the other build paths are necessarily interesting or convenient or good enough to really allow for any diversity among them. If for any reason we finally got the ability to have multiple build paths and multiple play styles for heroes, HK was able to sort of play as a tank, and Charnok didn't always have to be, the damage that he is. Maybe he could do a little bit more utility for his team, and Vidasi didn't have to have all of her healing. She could get rid of her healing and do more damage and just be full up damage, stuff like that. Like, allow for more diversity within the game, and the game would have a lot more competitive capability because there'd be a lot more micromanaging of your builds and whatnot, as well as macro managing of your team comps with those builds, and it would be a lot more competitive on that sense with team comps, because now you could go into a game with one team comp that could end up doing 2 completely different strats, or 3 or 4 completely different strats with it. So if they just made those builds a little bit more interesting, we could have a much more complex and diverse game for the competitive people without sacrificing the casual either.
Yeah,
because
that's
obviously,
something where Heroes of the Storm really excels.
Yeah.
As well, like with the 2 different ultimates that you can choose from, the talent, like having 5 or 6 different
and
talents.
they
for each
both
ability.
excel and suffer from the same issues.
Oh,
In a
absolutely.
lot of heroes, they excel in it, but in some heroes, it's like, why would you get that
Yeah,
upgrade? You never want to get that
exactly,
upgrade,
That's always the case, though. There's always one
Yeah.
where it's just this one is clunky, and you guys
But I mean-
clearly had a great idea and then had to come up with another one.
Yeah, and back to gigantic, it's a lot of it is very true in the fact that if that was the situation, I feel like they wouldn't be as pressured to try and rush out new content and new heroes as quickly as they might be wanting
If they just
to.
if they just created a little bit
all-
more diversity within the builds, if they just allowed for a little bit more going
I
on,
then I wouldn't mind if we went 3 silent months with new hero,
Yeah,
or no new
exactly.
hero,
I'd rather they weren't silent months, but yeah, 3 months is
Yeah.
it's okay.
You know what I meant.
No,
But
yeah.
that is actually going to be just about it for us today. We are already over our hour by about 5 minutes, going on to 6 in here. But it was great having you out here, Koos. Really appreciate you coming in and filling in
Thank you
for
for having
Perry
me.
today. And we had a lot of really great discussion on a lot of things. If for whatever reason you want to watch the show again, all of our shows go straight up to our highlights here on the Twitch page, as well as onto our YouTube. That's youtube.com/GGUnleashed. We do have an email for GG Unleashed, or for Bull Rush as well. That's bullrush@ggunleashed.com, and that forwards to both me and Perry. So if there's any suggestions you have, any topics you think you want covered, email them out. We'd love to hear them. Follow all 3 of us at our Twitters up above our heads. We have at Big Koos up there. We have me at Schmuglidorf, and Twolfman is at Twolfman, as well as follow underneath us the at GG_Unleashed Twitter there, so that way you can get all the updates for anything that we do. I'm looking at Perry down on the bottom here. But if there's anything else you guys want to ask us or anything whatsoever, you can just send those emails there, tweet us out, have fun. We are going to go ahead and raid out a Rodre, in my opinion, probably one of the best EU players of all time.
Yep, absolutely.
He's just an absolute beast in general. So we're going to host him out.
Twitch main.
Yeah. So that's going to be about that. We're going to host him out. But as always, we appreciate for you coming by, and we'll see you next time.